All right, Nick. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a gift.
Okay.
And that is, I wanted you to enjoy listening to the intro for this week.
Ooh.
So,
is this a trap?
Please tell me how you feel. I'm curious what you think.
Okay.
All right?
You can feel the madness. Header, jumper. Yes, sir. This miracle run continues for St. Peter's. The Peacocks make history.
Shot clock resets to 20. Golke again. Yes! No good. And Oakland with a March memory of a lifetime.
Hello, friends. Welcome in. It's the first summer pod of the D1 and Done pod. But what'd you think? Did you like it?
Robbie, I like to imagine we're going to do this podcast for a long time.
Uh-huh.
We're going to have many summer pods.
Yes.
And forever and always, the first ever summer pod.
Starting off on that note, right?
That's, what is this? I figured as a Purdue basketball fan, you would be more sentimental to my downfalls in March.
I mean, some of us have made Final Fours as of the last year, so.
I get that. Congrats and all that.
Thank you.
I will say it does hurt a little less knowing that a new leaf has been turned at the University of Kentucky.
That it has. That's why that was initially my motivation was you guys are so high after getting a new coach and getting 30 new players in the transfer portal. I'm trying to bring you back down to earth a little bit. Hopefully that does that.
No, it did the trick. Just hearing Golke's name made me so
That's
mad.
exactly what I was looking for.
And for those Patriots fans out there, he worked out the team the other day.
I almost sent that to you.
It just, I can't stand him. I dislike him more than what's St. Peter's?
Doug Eddard.
Yeah, Eddard.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
don't say
good.
mean things on here.
All right, speaking of, welcome in. It's the D1 and Done podcast, after all of that, currently presented by the official Mountain West correspondent, SEC correspondent, and benefactors of the podcast, the Hagen Hall Boys. Make sure you follow us on our social media pages. It's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can leave us email messages. It's d1anddonepod@gmail.com. That's the letter D and the number 1 and AND Donepod. Make sure you leave us a review on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Do they do podcasts on MySpace anymore?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Cool. Mm-hmm. You can also send us your questions via SpeakPipe. At some point this summer, we're just going to do an all SpeakPipe episode where we'll just run through about 20 questions from our viewers that want us to answer in regards to whatever questions they may have. It may not even be pertaining to college basketball, so maybe it's an opportunity, the lovely single ladies out there, to ask Nick, is he available?
Yes.
So, yes. Good to know. I'm glad we know. By the way, you are not hearing the voice of one Dusty Mills. That's because that clown, I felt like I was dealing with a 17-year-old in their relationship for the first time. Can you do dinner? Can you not? Are we going to go out? Are we not? It took us 72 hours to finally figure out that Dusty cannot do the pod on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't do it on Friday, and I'm leaving to go out of town for a week. That was exhausting, Dusty. And if you're listening to this, I was exhausted trying to deal with you for the last 72 hours.
For people who don't know, we're trying to schedule the podcast time this week. We're trying to get our first summer pod back.
That's right.
Maybe we're a little rusty trying to get back to communication, but what Robbie's hinting at is not just we couldn't pencil down a time. We couldn't get a direct answer out of Dusty.
We had a time, then we didn't. Then we had a time again, then we didn't have a time again. Then golf happened, then golf didn't happen, and then something else.
And then sometimes golf has 18 holes. Sometimes
Live? Are you on the Corn Ferry? What is it?
I think so. We talk about podcasting. Say Thursday, yesterday, Wednesday, I think at 4:30 or whatever time it was. We didn't have a confirmed answer from Dusty until, I don't know, 11 a.m., noon.
He's lucky that I'm flexible. As a teacher, I have to be flexible. It's kind of my job, but my gosh.
I'm flexible. Ladies.
Are you?
Yeah.
Good.
I can't touch my toes. It's a lie. Can you touch your toes? You're tall. Isn't it harder?
Bending down without bending your knees? I can get pretty close now. It's been a while, but I used to be fairly flexible. I was pretty, we'll see.
Official Robbie's flexibility.
The show coming up, we're going to talk about Dan Hurley staying at UConn. That was obviously the big story of the last week or so. We had some news from Purdue, from Kanon Catchings, a former student of mine. Well, not really a student, but kind of a student, but not really. And then we're going to talk about the transfer portal. We're going to talk about tracking kind of who's in, who's out, who stayed, who left, all that fun stuff. And then we'll even get into our way too early top 25 / teams we like, we don't like. We'll talk a little IU, Kentucky, Purdue, the normal teams from around this area. But we start first with Dan Hurley. And if you've been living under a rock, you know that Dan Hurley was approached by the Los Angeles Lakers to take over the job as the head coach at the Los Angeles Lakers. Probably a dream job for just about any basketball coach on this planet, not just in the United States, but on planet Earth. He recently, just to give you some perspective, he signed a 6-year, $32 million contract with UConn. My apologies, my phone keeps going off because I'm getting a text message from someone. Her name rhymes with jelly. And so last year, he signed a 6-year, $32 million contract. Very lucrative for a college basketball coach. That's at least about $5 million a year? Yeah, a little over $5 million a year.
Good math,
correct.
Robbie.
$5.5 million a year. The Los Angeles Lakers, now, they approached Dan Hurley about the opportunity to kind of start, I guess, a program or something new with the Lakers. I was fascinated by kind of how they presented it and the direction they were going. But so 6 years, $70 million was supposedly the offer from the Los Angeles Lakers, and Dan Hurley turned it down. Now, there were reports out there that they was potentially going to get up to $100 million. And if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, my first question is, why, if you were that committed to Dan Hurley, why didn't you go up to $100 million, which I don't know if money was the deciding factor for Dan Hurley. Probably wasn't. But this looks worse on the Lakers more than anything because your number one option of the franchise of all franchises in American professional sports, you can't get your number one choice. Now, obviously we're a college basketball podcast, and that's a whole other topic of conversation. But Dan Hurley staying at UConn, we've talked about this. It seemed like there was no downside to giving the Lakers a chance. What did you think?
Start off, Robbie. It's great to be back here on the summer pod.
It is good to be
back. It's really great
yes.
to be back. And it's funny here for our first summer pod, I think it's only fitting that we're talking about Dan Hurley, right? Because he is truly the
college basketball world revolves around Dan Hurley.
He really is the face of college basketball, just
he
like
is,
that.
Yes.
And here we are in one offseason. He declined the University of Kentucky, which I think a lot of people consider maybe, if not the top job, one of the most premier programs.
It's up there. It's like top 20, yeah.
I'd give it top 17
okay,
in
top
my last
17,
rankings.
Okay.
So, and that was reported, I believe the report was a little over 11 million. So that was the report. So take of that what you will, okay?
Jeez, okay.
So then he declines that, which is already like, I'm feeling good at UConn, just shows the state they're at.
Right.
And then here we are, 2 months later, he turns down the Los Angeles Lakers and kind of like teased him a little bit, right? And you mentioned...
Oh, yeah. Kind of like how Dusty teased us that he was going to be here for this podcast for the last 3 days. Yes. Very similar.
Dusty Mills Hurley, as they call him. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, what are just, 15 months of Danny Hurley. Two national championships, turns out Kentucky and the Lakers, and... Again, Alex Carabans.
I think he was mid to late second round.
Yeah.
I was secretly hoping he would because he is such a good college basketball player, kind of like Cam Spencer. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, overall,
I was getting at,
go for it, sure.
sorry, I was kind of doing the preamble there,
fine.
but first of all, the Lakers want to hire him is interesting, right? Because, again, I know we're a college basketball podcast, but the Lakers are star-driven, free agents, all that stuff.
Yes.
Like trade for Anthony Davis. It seemed like they wanted to do,
they wanted to go a completely different direction,
right.
kind of blow it up, go, I guess, like the Sixers model in a sense, where kind of build from within.
Right, I guess.
Kind of, right? And that's more Raptors, I guess. That's not really Sixers. Sixers was more Embiid, let's go get stars to go with it.
It's not a perfect, but like when the Cavaliers hired John Beeline, remember they kind of wanted to bring him in.
That way. That's right.
Which did not work as well. But
and Beeline was set in his ways. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And Hurley's younger, and he's gone off the ranks, and he's expressed NBA.
Correct.
Which I think down the road, I think him going to the Knicks, if Thibodeau ever...
Celtics or Sixers.
Right.
And maybe the Nets as well. I think it seems like he's an East Coast guy through and through. I'm not sure how he would have fit on the West Coast, but the most surprising part...
Right, it seems like he needs to be miserable in the cold. Like him being the sunny sunshine.
Yes, I'm choosing Storrs, Connecticut over Los Angeles, California. Who does that? Well, Dan Hurley does.
ESPN didn't.
Can you... What I was playing through the hypotheticals in my brain. I don't know, and I don't know if this is Dan Hurley coming to this realization. The intensity and fire that he coaches with every single game, what did we have, a 46 games for UConn this past year or something like that?
36, right?
Okay, so 36, okay. I don't know how you sustain that for 82 games. I really don't. Like, he would have to have had changed as a person and a coach for him to work in the NBA, in my opinion. Because I don't think the way he coaches, like that fiery personality that's constantly yelling and barking, you can't really do that. Like, I don't know how you would sustain that energy unless you're on something, I guess, which he might be. I don't know. That's just me speculating. When I thought of that, I was just like, how the heck is he going to handle this for 82 games?
I agree with that in 3 ways. One, first of all, it should be noted they might want to do the young development thing, but LeBron James and Anthony Davis are still on their team. Okay, so you are still going to be dealing with grown men here.
It's the Los Angeles LeBrons. Yeah. It is not the Los Angeles Lakers. It is once Los Angeles the Lakers sold their soul to get LeBron James to come there. You're stuck with him for a while, and whatever he decides.
And his son should be on the way soon, or could be on the way, I guess. So, and then the second part of it, there's 2 examples of this, right? Like, intense-ish college coaches going to NBA. Rick Pitino went from Kentucky to the Celtics.
Did not work.
They tried pressing the whole game.
Yep.
Like Robby said, did not work.
No.
Speaking of Kentucky again, John Calipari, Coach Cal.
With the Nets.
Went to the Nets. Work. There's a famous quote from his 30 for 30. Sam Cassell said, like, Cal yelled him to dive for a loose ball in the first quarter. And Cassell's like, I'm not diving for a loose ball in the first quarter. Like, what are you talking? So, like...
That's why
it's just an interesting fit.
I can think of these hypotheticals. Austin Reeves not setting a good screen in practice and Dan Hurley getting mad at him and making him run for it. Like, I understand that people are trying to get out of college coaching because NIL is such a pain in the backside and recruiting is as stressful and as difficult as it'll ever be. But I cannot imagine a coach like Dan Hurley working with the personnel that you have to deal with in the NBA, unless he's willing to change. But I just don't know how he would change.
Right, and I think cultures matter. Like, the Lakers are not going to ever be like a gritty, tough-nosed team.
No.
Like, they'll win with star power.
Showtime.
Like Showtime, right?
It's Showtime.
Like, if he look at the Knicks and Thibodeau, right? They like that. And, like, I think if he went there, Pat Riley was coaching Knicks in the 90s. They play that. Like,
his style could work with the Knicks, yes.
Yes, I think, like...
Which gives me another reason to hate the Knicks. If Dan Hurley went there, oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I just... Again, what do you think? Do you think he actually considered the job, or do you think this was a ploy to the negotiation?
I've heard that being thrown out as it being a leverage tool, and that does not seem like something Dan Hurley would do, to be honest. He's already in a perfect position. I think he genuinely and truthfully was considering that job. And when he went out there and kind of experienced everything and probably went through all the interview process and learning about... I think he came to the realization that it just wasn't a good fit. Now,
I agree, by the way.
I've heard other people say, well, once he left Los Angeles, he was not taking that job. And I think there's some truth to that, is if the Lakers couldn't get you to say yes while you're there, you have a chance to go home and think about it and be around the East Coast again, how's that going to work?
He went and saw a Billy Joel concert in Northeast.
Did.
Billy Joel gone back there. But yeah, Robby, I agree. I'm sure, like we mentioned earlier, the Lakers are the Lakers.
It's still the Lakers.
You're going to consider it. So.
Absolutely.
So again, 2 things can be true. I'm sure he seriously considered it, but he also probably knew I could also play this to my advantage as well.
But I come back to the fact that if you really, really, really wanted Dan Hurley that much, why did you not empty the bank and really go for it? 6 years, $70 million does not seem like something that, if you're really as if it's a... I don't know. They kind of played the middle of the road, the Lakers did. They played it safe almost. Now, again, that's the 6 years, $70 million. That's what's being reported. Maybe it was a lot more than that, but I feel like it was, this is really your guy, your number one option, and you're the Los Angeles Lakers, and you've got all this money, and you've got the position and the status and the stature. Why are you not going like 10 years, 110 or something like that? Something crazy, if that's really the guy that you want to start with and give him time and create that program like you've been talking about.
Well, it's interesting you mention that. So I believe whoever this coach can be is going to be LeBron's 5th coach in LA. So I'm sure they're paying a lot of coaches different money. So you mentioned they probably could give him more. It should be known the buses are not on the richer side of owners in the NBA.
Correct.
So
yes.
I wonder if that's about as high as they could have gone.
Maybe.
And I wonder too, like, were their eyes set on JJ Redick all along? Like, was this a different way for, like, So people, they didn't have to do the PR game of like, we consider Dan Hurley, we consider this guy, but just to hire JJ Redick.
If you're the Lakers, why are you hiring JJ Redick? That makes no sense.
LeBron James is your answer.
I guess.
Who's going to turn, I think it's December of 84. So he's going to turn 40 in December. And that's what we're basing our decisions on. Which, by the way, I think I mentioned his 5th coach in LA, which is just hilarious.
And his only title is that bubble title, and he hasn't really done much in the playoffs outside of that.
Not to be controversial on this podcast, but we consider the Lakers 2020 title Mickey Mouse title, just so we're all clear.
I have an asterisk next to it, 100%. Yes. Now, it's still a title. You still get a trophy, but it's... Yeah.
Just like the 2017 Astros.
Well, they have I would consider the in-season tournament title way more meaningful than the NBA Finals title in the bubble.
Did you know they hung a banner for that?
Yeah. I think the NBA probably required them to do it.
Right, if the Lakers do it, it makes it cool for everyone else to do it.
So let's get back to the UConn side of things, because I would imagine that Hurley's probably going to be bumped up in pay. I think the governor of Connecticut even came out and said, yes, Dan Hurley's going to be the highest paid coach in college basketball.
Some restaurant gave him free wings for life to come back, so he's doing great in Connecticut.
So he's going to have a chance to do something that only John Wooden has ever done, and that's win 3 straight national championships coming up this year. And I said it when he turned down the offer. I know Dan Hurley's ego is already massive. His ego is now through the roof because he just turned down the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm fascinated by this team he has coming in next year because he's got a lot of pieces that feel like that they'll fit, but he doesn't have Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Steph Castle, Donovan Clingan. Mm-hmm. Where are you at with UConn going into next year? Because you still got Caravan. I know you got Terrace Reed coming in. You got a couple really good recruits as well.
St. Mary's transfer.
Aiden Mahaney is coming in, which I think that's a really good fit. But also, I think this past year's team just felt like that was a generational team that all bought in. I don't know if you're going to get that kind of buy-in again from those guys that you continue to turn in through the portal. You got to make sure you get the right guys, but that not trying to say that UConn can't do it again. They absolutely can, but I'm fascinated to see if he can do it with a whole different crew and a brand new team next year.
Yeah, and I think what we're saying is like the expectation is national championship or bust, right? So we can be critical of them, but we're kind of like picking out straws here, right? They're going to be a top 5 to 10 team. Again, I don't think I mentioned Samson Johnson's going to be back too.
Right, he's an interesting player. So their projected starting lineup right now would be Hassan Diarra, good player, not a Tristan Newton, Steph Castle, Aiden Mahaney, who is a very good player, Liam McNeely, 5-star freshman coming in. If you're an IU fan, you probably are aware of that name. Alex Caravan and Samson Johnson. So that's your starting 5. And you're also going to bring the Michigan transfer Terrace Reed off the bench. He's a very good player. This is an interesting UConn team, but I don't know if they're going to be... Again, they're going to have to lean heavily on Liam McNeely being a dude. He very well may be. He's a very good player. But I don't know if they're going to reach the same this later. They wouldn't be my pick to win it all right now.
Which again, just crazy word. That's what the expect is natty or buzz. Like kind of.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to point out, look, they lost a lot from their first year to the second year. But I feel like a lot of those guys who won the second team were like big contributors on the first team, right? Like Caravan was, Clingan,
Castle was. So was Tristan Newton. Tristan Newton, he was the most outstanding player in the national championship the year before that, if I'm not mistaken.
So again, guys who actually, some guys are coming back again like Caravan, but like again, they're going to be really good. They'll probably be the Big East favorites, but it does seem like it's going to be a taller task.
Very
and
much so.
As you get to, there's going to be some teams like Kansas and Alabama that just seem like that.
Hang on to that. We're going to get to that here in a moment. We're going to talk about our top 25, maybe our early Final Four picks, things like that.
Final Four picks?
Yeah. It's June. What else are we going to do while we're here?
By the way, do you know how many days this whole first game of season?
Give me like 142.
Oh, you're so 144.
Oh, so close.
That was really close.
Wow. I'm going to go on Price is Right for that. I was under 2. Closest without going over.
That's about as good as you could have done,
I would have won the bid. Get me on Plinko. Next topic of conversation, we obviously Dan Hurley, a big one. But Kanon Catchings is the other big piece from this area. If you don't know, Kanon Catchings, a Brownsburg, Indiana native, decided to spend his senior year at Overtime Elite. And he had been committed to Purdue for some time. And I will be upfront and honest with you, as someone who was in the loop on that recruitment. Kanon Catchings was not committed to Purdue. Kanon Catchings' family was committed to Purdue, and that was the big reason why. But 5-star freshman, immense, uber talented player, about 6'8", 6'9", tall, lanky, getting stronger. You could see it when he played at Overtime Elite this past year. But he was released from his national letter of intent from Purdue. Supposedly the story from last week was he was getting ready to show up for off-season workouts and be enrolled at Purdue. He, again, this is reportedly, asked Matt Painter and told Matt Painter, I'm starting or I'm leaving. And Matt Painter said, no, you're going to fight for your spot. And he said, okay, I'm out.
Simple as that.
Welcome to our culture, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to laugh. Do you know his current offer, his current list of teams he's considering to go to?
I know BYU's randomly one of them.
BYU,
That's all I know.
Florida State, and NC State.
Heck yes. Well, because you need two folds, right? First of all, it's June 13th. You need teams with still roster spots available.
Right.
And somewhere you know you're going to start. So you need two of those all in one.
So if the BYU doesn't make sense, you are correct. In the offseason, there was BYU decided to hire Tim Fanning, who was one of the coaches of Kanon Catchings at Overtime Elite. That's where that connection is kind of made, and that's where people have kind of been drawing the lines of those two. Now, Catchings did take his visit to BYU over the weekend. He also has visits playing to Florida State and NC State reportedly. But I think I have a lot of thoughts about this, obviously. As someone from Brownsburg, I have that close connection there. I'm fascinated by his recruitment, but also just the fact that I think he is a story within a story of college basketball. I'm not getting my way, I'm out. And I think that's also a big problem with just society and this generation as a whole. Now, this isn't me trying to get on my soapbox and whatnot. You're not a part of this.
I'm Gen Z.
You're 24?
25.
25?
I think we're same generation.
Yeah. But still, you're not Kanon Catchings.
Thank you. I think.
Kanon Catchings is a phenomenal player. He's got a great future. Mentally, question marks. And I think that's where this came into play is once he kind of got out from his family and his parents, I think that's where he started to make his own decisions. A lot of people probably don't know this. He had so many people in his ear at Brownsburg and the other people that he runs in his AAU circle. They were all dogging him and ragging him for hours and hours about Purdue losing to Fairleigh Dickinson. And I have it on good authority. I know for a fact he was probably decommitting to Purdue after losing to FDU. Can you believe that?
That's so funny.
But again, and that's why if you know that, it now makes sense that you have someone so uneasy about their decision the entire time. Now, Kanon Catchings, I think, would have been great at Purdue. If he learned to play within a team and other players, I think he would have grown as a person, mentally, physically, emotionally. This is now kind of the point where you're 18 years old and you're making your own decisions. And when you haven't grown up and you haven't matured properly, this is what happens. And I know there may be people listening to this that are going to say, let the kid be a kid. And I totally understand that, and I get it. But at some point, the parents have to kind of jump in and be like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're going here and you're going to make it work. And you're going to learn from it. We have to understand that as a society, as people, we have to learn to fail. It cannot be all sunshines and rainbows all the time. And I think we're so used to, getting all the praise and getting our flowers and people telling us how great we are. And social media has made us so backwards with this kind of crap. And I know I'm going off on a rant here again. This is one of these classic Robby rants. I'm not even talking about Tennessee this time.
This is Robby yelling at students. We got a teacher Robby right now. I love this. And obviously every 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old is going to be immature and make dumb decisions and do stupid stuff. We were all in that position. If we don't have guidance to make those decisions, I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves. So ultimately, I think this was the wrong decision for Kanon Catchings to basically ask a coach, hey,
if I'm not starting, I'm out. And I think he's, again, you reap what you sow. You're going to deal with the consequences, however they may come. I think Kanon Catchings at Purdue would have been great because he would learn to play within a system, in a program, and mature and grow. And I'm not sure that's going to happen now. And I think he's going to be, again, this is not me dogging on the kid, but I think he's going down the wrong road of the hype and enthusiasm around a person, and ultimately it's going to go by the wayside at some point.
That was fun to watch, Rob. I'm not gonna lie. Again, I'll say for the Purdue side real quick. So I think it says a lot about where the program's at. Like they feel comfortable enough, like being like, "Hey, you're the 5-star, but you got to earn your spot here." And
the only player that Matt Painter's ever been like, "Okay, we'll work with you on this stuff," was Caleb Swanigan, and that was an extreme situation. This is a little bit different. You don't have a kid coming in, especially after you're coming off a Final Four, demanding to start, and you basically said, "Okay, sure."
Right, and another thing, right? You guys didn't get in the transfer portal at all because you had no roster spots open.
Yeah.
So do you have a roster spot open now?
No, technically no. This actually gives us because we were one over, and the plan was to be Brian Waddell would basically go in as a walk-on and have his scholarship kind of paid for through NIL in a sense.
Oh, wow.
Which was
sounds sketchy.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now he's going to be able to be all in scholarship, and they're all set and ready to go. So pretty interesting how that kind of all worked out in Purdue's favor. But the Purdue fans that are saying, "Yeah, he can't get things," with him, top 15 team. Without him, probably a top 20 team. Still really good, but ultimately I think this gives more of a chance for Cam Heide, Miles Colvin, the big man, that new freshman kid, Daniel Jacobson, who's going to come in and probably play immediately along with Will Berg. It's a bummer we lost him. It does suck. I was hoping that Purdue was going to be able to keep him, but for the longest time, and I think Mark Titus said it as well, is he never felt like a Purdue recruit. It felt like his parents were pushing him to Purdue because they knew that was the best situation and opportunity for him to grow as a person.
Real quick, Tamika's not his mom, right? It's
correct.
His aunt?
Yes, aunt.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
Once he kind of got to go on his own and basically given the keys to the car to make their own decision, I think ultimately this is what ends up happening, and that's why he's made this move.
I wish Reed and Rob would have demanded the stars. That'd been cool. I wish more freshmen should do that, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I said Reed and Rob, I wish they would have demanded. We wouldn't be here right now. But yeah, I got nothing else to add. It'd be interesting to see what he does. I mean, got Kevin Keats and Leonard Hamilton in the mix now. I can't remember the BYU. Not Mark Pope and BYU, so congrats to whoever gets him. What's the catch? Eames.
Boo.
Do you have the little thing over there?
Where is it? Hold on. There you go.
Thank you.
Got it for you.
Got any more life lessons over there?
No, I just like it.
You kids.
I'm not so much. I'm more bothered by the fact that the kid is making this decision. I think ultimately, I'm not sure Overtime Elite did this kid any favors. I think it grew him physically, and you could see that, and he's an awesome talent. But I'm not sure that they prepared him mentally and emotionally to handle what's coming. Just in my opinion.
Which
I could be wrong by that, but I don't think I am.
Which obviously is half the battle, right? Like, how many 5-star recruits do you just never hear from again, right? Like, you can have the talent in the world, you just need the coaching foundation. But hey, good luck to the kid.
Good luck to him.
Mr. Catchings, come on the pod, defend yourself if you want to at any point.
He's not much of a talker, so I look he would want to come on a podcast. But yeah, I'm fascinated. I look forward to where he goes. Some may have said that he may just come back to Overtime Elite, spend a year, then go to the draft potentially. Some have put him in the first round of mocks next year, but also reportedly there's some concerns with him as a player. But again, we'll see where all of that goes. I'll leave it at that.
The 2025 draft is projected to be way better than this year's draft.
Well, it can't get any worse. This year's draft is...
Which, sneak preview, will be our next pod.
We will.
Will be about the NBA draft preview.
Coming up probably about 2 weeks, we'll have an NBA draft preview.
I don't know what the heck we're going to talk about. Who's going to be
Jack Golke going to the Pacers. That's what we're going to be talking about.
I'll quit the pod. And being a Patriots fan.
But yeah, we'll have an NBA draft preview at some point.
Dusty will be back from his PTO.
Are we sure?
No.
I don't know if he will be.
He might be golfing that day.
He probably is going to still be golfing over in Saudi Arabia on Live.
I'll text Haley right now. We'll get clarification.
Good. Make sure we have it scheduled at this point. All right. So those were two kind of big storylines from, I guess, the last couple weeks. But the bigger story overall now is we're looking at the transfer portal. And it is kind of starting to settle in. There is now one remaining uncommitted player.
Your boy.
My boy, Coleman Hawkins, is available for all of you who need a really good player.
Well, not everyone, Robbie. You can't be in the Big East. He's already said that. He wants to go to no other big... He wants football. He made it... This. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
He wants football. He's not going to the Big Ten. And he prefers somewhere warmer. So he's narrowed it down for you people out there.
Congratulations to UT Rio Grande Valley's Coleman Hawkins, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I mean, when you spend all that time in Champaign, I would imagine you probably want to go somewhere warmer anyway. So does make sense. That's not a shot at Champaign. Champagne's a really good college town. Notice I didn't say great because it's good. Mm-hmm. But I mean, cold weather for the longest time. Maybe he's going to go to Dunk City.
Every Purdue football game I watch, it's never been sunny there. It is. Is it cloudy every single day in West Lafayette?
No.
I swear I've never seen the sun there once.
What's funny is the sunny games are usually the games we always lose.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm avoiding those.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, because you're watching Purdue win. That's what it is. Yeah, because the most memorable Purdue games as of late have been like the Ohio State game with Tyler Trent. That was a night game. Mm-hmm. That's it. There are any other games.
They won at Iowa when they were like number 2.
We did. When Iowa was number 2 in the country, that was the worst second-ranked team in the history of college basketball, or history of college football. And then we beat number 3 Michigan State the year after that. So, or was that the same year? It was the same year. We had 2 top 5 wins that year.
Yes, kids. Michigan State used to be good at football. It was a heck of a time. Shout D'Antonio.
Mark D'Antonio may or may not have done some questionable things in the past.
Which Michigan State coach are we talking about?
Good point. So Coleman Hawkins is the last remaining in the transfer portal. Some of the big names, we'll just go through the top 10 here. So Umar Ballo going to IU. Norchad Omier, Miami guy, took him to a Final Four. He's going to be at Baylor, which I think that's a good fit for him. Old Nelly John L. Davis going from Florida Atlantic to Arkansas, not following Dusty May to Michigan, which I thought was interesting. Tucker DeVries, we know he was going to West Virginia the whole time. PJ Haggerty, which for some reason is the 5th best transfer according to On3. He's going for guard from Harvard, will be at Georgetown. That's a good pickup for Ed Cooley. AJ Storrs, probably the most interesting one, going from Wisconsin to Kansas. Jonas Adu, Tennessee to Arkansas. Jeremy Roach, also going to Baylor from Duke. Cliff Amore going to Alabama. And then the other big one for IU, Kanon Carlisle going from Stanford to IU. We already talked about Miles Rice before. There's Zeke Mayo, Vlad Gold going to Michigan.
I think 2 you missed. Greg Osibor. I don't know if we talked about that.
Greg Osibor, going to Washington for supposedly $2 million.
And the number 1 guy, according to 24/7, Kaderi Richmond, going from Seton Hall to St. John's.
What an interesting move there. Kaderi Richmond going from St. John, going to St. John's. So,
and one more for locally. I'm spacing Indiana State kid.
Robbie Avila.
Going to St. Louis.
Going to St. Louis, which was not a surprise following Josh Schertz going from Terre Haute to St. Louis, which that'll be a fun kind of jump for him to see kind of where he goes. Other ones that kind of jumped off the page at me, there were a few others that I wanted to mention. Kobe Brea, Dayton to Kentucky, one of the best shooters in the country last year, shooting nearly 50% from 3.
Jackson Robinson, who was BYU, who won Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year.
Jackson Robinson also going to Kentucky. DJ Wagner following Cal to go into Arkansas, which is an interesting one.
One of many guys following Cal to Arkansas.
Very much so. Andrew Carr, Wake to Kentucky. Trey Townsend, the Kentucky killer, going to Arizona, which is an interesting one, leaving Oakland. Ryan Conwell, Pike Kids, going to Xavier. Tony Perkins, Lawrence North kid, going to Missouri.
Former, most coveted transfer in the world, Tyrese Hunter, going from Texas to Memphis.
That's a wild one. I had no idea about that one. Yeah, Texas to Memphis. Can you believe that? H-Shore, really good guy at Samford, is at Kansas State. Any other ones that jumped off the page that I'm missing? Lamont Butler, that's a good one, going to Kentucky.
Butler, he's the one who hit the shot in the Final Four for Virginia State.
Riley Kugel was going to Kansas. Now he's not. Now he's going to Mississippi State.
Which other news? coach. Chris James got
an extension, which was a good signing for them, or
the one-
good addition. Also, Kanye Clary, we talked about him before, from Penn State to Mississippi State, and R.J. Melendez, now on his third team. He was at Illinois, then he went to Georgia. Now he's at Mississippi State. I've always thought he's a really good player that just needs the right situation to really get his talent, but we'll see where it goes.
Can I give you my 3 goofiest transfers real quick?
Please do, yes.
Aiden Holloway, who was at Auburn last year, now Alabama. So I'm just going to go right to it's just interesting. Tramon Mark, going from Arkansas to Texas. Okay. And then my favorite, Debo Davis from Arkansas to Oklahoma State.
Good Lord.
Go do your thing there, Oklahoma State. I don't know what the
Debo's on his third team as well, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Maybe fourth even?
Possibly.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's Arthur Kaluma. Did he ever make a decision?
It's a good one. I was wondering about that as well.
By the way, Tramon Mark, 40th ranked recruit or transfer to 24/7 Sports. Just a weird fall off for him. Aaron Bradshaw from Kentucky.
Aaron Bradshaw's going to Ohio State. That was because Tramon Mark had a lot of hype coming into this season. Arkansas. So, we talked about it as well. So Arkansas played Purdue in one of those preseason games, sold out Bud Walton Arena for it because they were raising money for the tornadoes that had come through Arkansas from that. And just a ton of hype around that Arkansas team. And
so much talent, dude.
Terrible.
Too much talent.
Yeah.
Trayvon Battle's another guy I can't remember where he went. He transferred away from Arkansas.
So, as of now, Kaluma does not have a team.
Just chilling.
He may be staying in the draft.
Just chilling.
Sounds like. So, that's an interesting one as well. So, yeah, but overall, so the portal is technically still open. The problem is that you're going into a non-contact period, which is, I think, the month of June.
COVID's back?
No. No.
I wore the mask for nothing?
No. I hate you so much. You're not allowed to contact these players until I think after the month of June, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I could be wrong about that. But overall, as the transfer portal has settled, who are the teams that you like or who are the teams you dislike right now after seeing what has happened in the portal? We'll talk about IU and Kentucky separately and better over this offseason.
Alabama's the one that just sticks out, dude.
Yeah.
Just, again, not only do they get, by the way, we'll mention some guys who are coming back to their schools in a little bit. But yeah, Mark Sears coming back. Grant Nelson's coming back. They added Urumare. How do you say his name? Thank you so much.
By maybe the best one of that bunch, the most underrated, is that Chris Youngblood kid from South Florida. Dog.
And I mentioned they got Aiden Holloway. They got their star players back, and they just added depth everywhere. They basically, Nate Oates has quickly built, one of those consistent programs in the not only SEC in the country. This points again. I think Alabama. I'll just give you Kansas, the other big winner. People think of the transfer portal though.
Don't forget Rylan Griffin also. Probably.
Thank you.
Maybe it's Alabama's best shooter from last year's team was Rylan Griffin. You go through the percentages.
Furphy, too, to the draft.
That's right, Johnny Furphy staying in the draft. So that starting 5 for Kansas next year is DeJuan Harris, Zeke Mayo, A.J. Storr, K.J. Adams, Hunter Dickinson. And you bring Rylan Griffin off the bench.
Corner 24.
Yeah, very good.
2 of the top 12 players. I mentioned Kadary Richmond, who's number 1. And then another guy from Utah, Devion Smith. He's a little 6-foot point guard from Utah. So again, just St. John's, year 2 of Pitino. Pretty good job.
Maybe the most fascinating team in the portal of all the teams in the portal, I think, was Arizona, because Caleb Love is coming back, but you're losing. You're losing Kylan Boswell. You're losing Umar Ballo. Those were 2 guys that were really important to them. But you're bringing back Jaden Bradley. You're bringing back KJ Lewis. You add Trey Townsend, and then that 7-footer Krivas, I think, could have an opportunity to be really good. Also, Tobe Awaka going from Tennessee to Arizona too. So this is a fascinating Arizona team that I think, again, and tell me if I'm wrong, until they prove me wrong, this is an Arizona team and program that's going to find a way to stub their toe in the tournament just year after year after year. It seems like that, hey, this is the year that Arizona's going to do it. And it just, I have no belief in this team whatsoever. They're going to be top 10. They're going to have all the talent in the world, and they're going to stub their toe on someone really stupid.
Right, and because we've been doing this podcast for 1 year. Past 3 years, I've been all over Arizona. I love the talent. They have so much length every year.
They're fun to watch. Kashad Johnson was amazing this past year, and that's that's the Trey Townsend's going to come in and kind of take that role
And
for
2
this
years
year's
ago,
team.
I loved Tubelis a lot. He was just a great.
Suzy Tubelis.
And back when Kirk Risa, shout out Kentucky, they got him. But so yeah, I agree with you. Arizona's just been the same song and dance every year. What is notable for them going in this year though is in the Big 12 now. Could that help them a little more? Not having to play. Kind of get lulled to sleep with Washington and Colorado and all that. So who knows? Maybe I'll help them a little bit.
The team that I think that I'm going to be fascinated by the most watching next year is going to be Gonzaga. Because this team's not going to change at all. Outside of it, they're adding Michael Ajayi, who averaged 17 at Pepperdine. But now Nembhard, Hickman, Gregg, and Ike all back. And that was a team that was starting to put it together at the right time last year. I mean, you got to see it firsthand when they played at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was, okay, maybe something's working here. Mark Few is going to have last year's team was a team that started over brand new, losing Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme.
Drew Timme, yeah.
Now you've got basically the same team that you had from this past year. And that's kind of, Iowa State's kind of in the same position. Iowa State's bringing 4 of their 5 starters back. So there's some really fascinating stories going into next year of, it's almost as if you're on one end or the other. You're either bringing everyone back or you're bringing like one player back. And I am so fascinated. And I will say right now, and I pat money on it on my FanDuel account because I'm betting futures now. That's what I do. I'm a futures betting account.
Heck yes, Robbie.
I think Kansas is the best team in college basketball. I think they're going to win the national championship next year.
And it should be noted, a little bit of a revenge tour for Bill Self. 2 years ago, he could not coach in tournament due to health conditions.
Right.
And then last year, just kind of fell apart. So, yeah, I think we're going to get a very vengeful Bill Self next year.
I agree. And for my money, next to Dan Hurley, Bill Self's the best coach in college basketball.
I think I might even argue. Real quick, still number one.
Still number one? Oh, I'd say Dan Hurley is now.
Real quick, one other team.
Yeah.
Baylor's interesting. They bring back a lot, and they
I
add
love
North
Chatham is a really good player.
and Jeremy Roach. So just an interesting kind of group they have next year.
They're going to look a lot like Kansas next year, where they have a lot of similar pieces. Roach and DeJuan Harris, 2 superstar point guards that manage games well. You got some big dudes inside. I can't wait for Kansas and Baylor to play against one another.
I'm surprised as a big Christian man, Scott Drew would go get a Roach.
It's a great question. Mm-hmm. Moving on. Let's talk about Kentucky. The Wildcats have gone into free agency and done well for themselves, adding Mark Pope. How do you feel about where the Wildcats are right now? Are they a top 25 team at this moment right now?
I think probably back half.
Okay.
I'll say 21st. There we go. 21st
Okay.
Amendment. Shout out. I will say just what was presented to them, getting hired late in the cycle, lose everyone. No one's coming back.
No.
I guess of scholarship players, no one's coming back.
Yeah.
They got 2 recruits to stay with them, both from Kentucky. So you're truly starting from scratch. He got guys that fit a system. We got shooters. Again, there's probably going to be 21st. I think of all the way he was presented, about as good as he could have done. So I'm happy about it. You got some guys too, kind of like
So we talked about Jackson Robinson. We
Yeah.
talked about Kobe Bryant. What are some of the other guys that we need to look out for that play or where they played from last
So
year?
again, I like those guys like that, who have proven they're good at college basketball. Also, they kind of took some flyers of some guys like Kirk Carissa, which is going to be hilarious. Brandon Garrison, former McDonald's All-American from Oklahoma State, they brought in.
I think he's maybe one of the most overrated players in college basketball in history. In college basketball history, Kirk Carissa may be one of the most overrated players. If they can find a way to unlock his ability and potential, then yes, I think that's awesome. But
again, I think it's a different. I like the mix as well. Again, you have wild cards like that, and you have very steady guys like Lamont Butler. You have scorers like
love
Jackson
the Lamont
Robinson.
Butler ad. Yes,
I just like it's very not a cast of not like a bunch of random toys. You know what I'm saying? You have different pieces, and I think it's a fun roster, some flexibility to it. So I'm excited. And
you got a Fairleigh Dickinson guy on there too. Almanor, that's a guy that Purdue fans should know well.
Yeah, you're gassing up Towson over there, Robbie. So take that with my FDU guy.
What do you think about Travis Perry? That's a kid who Purdue recruited very heavily. There was a time where I think many thought that Travis Perry could have been a Purdue guy. He was a guy that was offered by Purdue. Ultimately, I think the Boilermakers kind of backed off at the end. But where does he fit in this situation? Is he going to play next year? Is he going to sit the bench?
This is, I think, every year of Kentucky basketball.
Kentucky's own. You always love the Kentucky kids that stay home and play for the Wildcats.
It's funny. Just this is the first time in my life I really don't know. Like, I don't know what to make. Again, he's not, for people who don't know, he's not like a 5-star or probably not even a 4-star.
Really, he's a 4-star probably across the board. Just this really solid 6'2" guard, going to do everything really well, but not like this insane athlete, crazy superstar, but really good player. I just wonder how he fits in this whole situation.
Right, again, I'm just learning on the fly here, like, what's Mark Pope's like strategy going to be with the recruits, right? Is he going to go for because again, it sounds like he is still going after the 5-stars and all that, so he's still seeking the talent, but for this year one, again, it's not like he's bringing one back. He brought some guys from BYU, obviously, but it's open for everything for me at this point. I truly do not know what to expect, and it's oddly pretty exciting.
I think the best player of the bunch is Andrew Carr. I think he's going to fit
Forest,
in.
right?
Yeah, I think he's going to fit in really well with what they're trying to do. Because he's a 6'10" guy, he can step out and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got some skills and ability.
And by the way, that's always one of the biggest criticisms of Cal, is the lack of shooting. That's not going to be an issue this year.
No, it will not be nope. Kobe Brea immediately changes that 49% from 3. Like, he was great at Dayton. So yeah, it's the fear of the unknown, but that unknown is pretty exciting as well in the process because you just don't know what to expect from Kentucky this year.
Like I said a million times, it's different characters, and I think you have a lot of options for him going to next year.
Let's finish it up talking about IU, talking about teams that kind of fit the mold of adding through the transfer portal. IU's going to have almost a brand new team next year. You're adding Miles Rice, Kanon Carlisle, Umar Ballo. Maybe the sneaky ad was Luke Goody from Illinois. That was a guy I thought
from Indiana.
From Fort Wayne. I thought he really came on towards the end of this last year at Illinois, became more of not just a shooter, but also a really good rebounder in the process. IU's got a lot of really good pieces here. The only problem is that Mike Woodson's still their head coach. And I think ultimately that's what's going to be their downfall. I think this is probably, from top to bottom, maybe IU's most talented team since, maybe one of the Crane teams.
The team they make the tournament is the 2017 team. I think is up there with OG, preseason top 5, and they just fell apart. So I think they're up there. But yeah, Robby,
because we don't even talk about Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, Trey Galloway. They're all back too. I mean, there's some good experience there. Like
former Mr. Basketball Anthony Leal's back as well. But he started playing better than last year. And Robbie's being attacked by one of our cats, by the way.
I am.
Is your Coro?
Can I just say about IU? I thought he had a really good season at the end of the season. But yes.
What I'm saying about IU is the same questions I had last year. Do these pieces fit?
Do they work?
It seems like, again, Mbako, Renew, and Ballo from Arizona. Can they all three be on the court together? Like, there's going to be such a lack of shooting again. And can they... again, it's a better version of last year's team, but I feel like some of the same problems could come to fruition.
The pros are they've got their starting lineup, which is, as of right now, Rice, Carlisle, Mbako, Renew, Ballo, uber talented.
Yes.
No question. Miles Rice shot 27% from 3 last year at Washington State. I think Kanon Carlisle was like 29%. Mackenzie Mbako showed he could shoot, but I think he was hovering around 30. Malik Renew kind of started to show he could shoot from 3, but not a great three-point shooter.
But this is my point. Look, you said Mbako can kind of shoot. He's going to be the best shooter on the court.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, that's a lot to ask for from something like that.
When you have these guards that can drive and get to the basket, Miles Rice is an excellent guy off the bounce. So is Kanon Carlisle. One of the most simplest and best forms of basketball is drive and kick. If you don't have anyone to kick it to, then what's the point of driving?
Right.
Because you're driving into someone who's going to protect the rim because Umar Ballo is not going anywhere. He's going to park that butt on the post and go nowhere. Like, that's just... I think that there are noticeable issues, but there's more talent. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I come back to Mike Woodson hasn't proven a dang thing. And I think you went through the same thing when you were at Kentucky. It's, look at all this talent. It started with, I'm done with Calipari. I'm done. I want a new coach. And IU was like, I'm done with Woodson. We need a new coach. He's terrible. And here comes the rise of the offseason. Off-season banner champions again. Hey, look at all the talent we have. This is great. Look at our coach. Our coach is amazing now. You were just saying 2 months ago how much you want Mike Woodson to be fired, and now you're like, look at this team. Look how great they are. You have the same freaking head coach.
And it should be noted, it's funny you mentioned it, that was Kentucky's life with Cal for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Once offseason comes around, we're back, boys.
Back, baby. And November comes around, oh crap, we're still the same team.
And I do want to say again about Mike Woodson. The reason we're critical about him, so this is going to be his 4th year. In the 3 years, to projected Ken Palm they were going into the season, they finished under that in all 3 years. So again, even like 2 years ago, like, and again, they made around 32, had a good year and all that. But like again, according to Ken Palm, they're still below their expected to be. So again, that's it. Well, Robbie, I think is getting at like, this will be a tournament team. This team will be one of the...
Yes, they will be one of the 64 or 68 teams in the tournament. I believe that. Yes,
they will be good. Just the question is like, can they like,
are they going to reach their ceiling of
exceed expectations?
Yeah,
can they do that?
I don't think they can exceed expectations. I think they are what they are. I think they're going to be around a 32 team, and that's it. And it's ultimately partially because of the coach.
And it's up to IU fans. Like, is that okay now? Like, if he gets
it has become okay with them. Because, again, it's offseason champions once again. Look at all the talent we have. They are so horrifically bad offensively. So bad. They run nothing of substance offensively. When you watch UConn compared to IU fans have to be like, what game are they playing? Is that basketball they're playing on offense? Like, it would drive me insane being an IU fan watching my team run sets offensively. It is pick and roll. If it doesn't work, let's toss it inside. That doesn't work, let's toss it back outside. That doesn't work, let's see if we can go off the dribble. They run no discernible offensive sets of any kind. They're boring, they're dull, and maybe that was a product of the team they had this year, and maybe that will change. I doubt it. Because they were kind of the same way when Jalen Hood-Schifino was there. He did everything for him, and is that going to be Miles Rice or Kanon Carlisle? Probably not, because those aren't NBA-level Jalen Hood-Schifino players.
I guess I'll try to be positive for IU fans, since we're being a little harsh.
I was trying to, and then I went into the, man, what the heck are they doing? They almost feel like the Mavericks. They have got these superstars that can go get points.
They don't have a Luka Doncic on his team.
No, they don't. But when Jalen Hood-Schifino was there, he was the big guy that they had. Trace Jackson Davis. What am I talking about? But in like the other pieces that were there were pretty good. Like Miller Kopp started to become a pretty good shooter, but he was really up and down. It feels like that they're running into the same position that they've been in for the last 3 years. Is here we are. We're going to get all this talent. But are we going to be a team that's going to embrace the game of college basketball where it is now, which is slinky threes? Are you going to be a Nate Oates in Alabama and go out and get shooters? Well, you got Luke Goody, who is a good shooter, but he's not even projected to start. So where are you really right now? Back where you started.
Again, I'll try to be positive for you IU fans out there. Gabe Cupps, you should have a more experienced point guard this year than him, because that was an issue last year. Xavier Johnson's off the team, which I think is a huge plus.
That's an addition by subtraction there.
You get another year in Baco, and you arguably are the Big Ten favorites right now, maybe?
IU, the Big Ten favorites?
I'm looking at the top 25. They're the highest-ranked Big Ten team on here, according to this ESPN article.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean...
Well, so the way too early top 25 that I have from...
I may have missed someone else.
So Borzello has, let's see...
This is good podcasting.
Yeah, Borzello has Purdue as the highest team at 15.
And IU's 18. Sorry, so I missed them. So again, you're one of the favorites.
But safe to say, the Big Ten's going to stink.
UCLA's in a weird spot.
UCLA's in a weird spot.
Which, don't forget, people, they're all coming next
maybe
year.
Washington will be good with Danny Sprinkle and Great Osibor. Maybe Oregon will be okay. I have no idea what to expect from USC, but that's going to be pretty tasty with Eric Musselman out there. So I have no idea what to expect from the Big Ten next year. But I will say, I think Purdue is in a much better spot than people will say.
I'm shocked by that statement.
I know, right? I ended with this. I want to be... As a Purdue fan, I wanted this like IU, obviously. Okay? Because that's we're rivals. We're not supposed to like our rival. But there's a part of me that wants to be unbiased as the journalist that I used to be in me, and I want to be able to give IU credit to say they added some really good pieces in the transfer portal. They look on paper to be a really good team.
Yeah, I think what we're saying is a fair statement. They have top 20 talent, but do they have the coach and roster construction to exceed expectations?
Yes.
And we are both skeptical of that.
Very skeptical because we haven't seen it in the last 3 years under Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
So maybe they turn it around and maybe they find a way to figure it out. What a time it would be, because I think Mike Woodson, if it doesn't happen this year, it's not going to happen.
You got to think so too. Which is honestly interesting too. If they were to get a new coach next year. A lot of great coaches just switch schools, so the pick of the litter next year probably won't be as grand as
Probably
it was
not, but also they're not going to be in the same position of the Kentuckys, Louisvilles, Arkansas with all those crazy openings that happened. Did you just spit on me, by the way? That was an incredible. That was so amazing.
Sorry.
No,
I didn't know whether to interrupt you or not. I apologize.
That's okay. Okay, so I mentioned, so my way too early Final Four right now, I would have Kansas winning it all. I would probably have Kansas and Alabama playing in the national championship game. I think UConn's probably going to find a way to get into the Final Four. I'll throw Baylor in as my other Final Four team.
Okay.
That's where I would be at right now. And a team that is probably, let's go way off the radar, that maybe not enough people know about, that probably need to keep an eye on them. Weirdly enough, keep an eye on Florida. I really like the Gators. And you added Elijah Martin. Walter Clayton's coming back. Probably Clayton, for my money, maybe one of the best shooters in college basketball. They got a lot of good pieces on that puzzle there. So I would say keep an eye on Florida, and weirdly enough, keep an eye on Ole Miss. Chris Beard may be building something there.
I was going to say Ole Miss as well as kind of sneaker.
Rutgers may be the best story in college basketball. You're adding 2 top 5 recruits to Rutgers? Like H. Bailey and Dylan Harper, 2 top 5 recruits. Like that's a whole other thing. And I love Steve Pikiell, maybe one of my favorite coaches in all the college basketball. I love him, and he does great stuff there.
Pound of nails, baby. I guess kind of this whole exercise is kind of hitting the 4 best teams already.
Who would the 4 best teams would be right now?
Yeah,
who do you like the most?
I think Kansas, Alabama have to be 1, 2, and I guess, do I have to say? Yeah, I guess it kind of has to be.
You don't have to say UConn.
No, yeah, I'm not going to say UConn.
That's
I'm going to say, you know what? Houston brings back a lot. I'll throw Houston.
They do?
We'll throw them in the Final Four. And you said Florida and Ole Miss, kind of the SEC schools I was looking at. So, you know what I'm going to do instead? Marquette.
No way.
They bring back everyone but Kolick, which that's a big loss.
That's a massive loss.
Addition by subtraction.
Cam Jones, Stevie Mitchell, David Joplin, they on paper it looks pretty nice, and also they don't have Oso Iguodaro either. So you just lost your 2 best players. They're not. No, absolutely not. Where does Arkansas fall in all of this? Are they is this thing going to happen for them?
They do.
Fierro's there too.
John L., like you mentioned,
Big Z. This is a fascinating team.
Is essentially the Kentucky's team last year, except you switch off Reed, Robb, and Edwards for Davis,
Carter Knox, and Jonas Adu, I guess.
And then they didn't get Q, right? Quinton, what the heck his name was? There was the other big Kentucky crew.
Oh yeah. No, they did. I don't think they got him.
See, I really don't know what to make of Arkansas and Cal. It's the whole Cal Arkansas thing is his own podcast. It's so weird that he's there. Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. Arkansas fans get ready to watch his offense.
Oh, it's a hoot. Wild. Creighton's another interesting one too, because Pop Isaacs at Texas Tech. I loved his game.
Oh, he's
going to Creighton, and Stephen Ashworth is back. So is Ryan Kalkbrenner.
I replaced Markel with Creighton.
Okay, that's fine. That. Oh, you're going to make Dusty really bad. He's listening to this right now.
I know. I made an Astros 2017 joke earlier. Now I'm making this,
and we should mention Wade Taylor's back.
You mentioned that. Can I?
Wade Taylor's back at A&M.
Can I mention the notable guys coming back to their own school?
Yes. Please mention the notable guys that are back. Janai Broome is back at Auburn. That's a big one, too.
So, yeah, which is kind of nice about this. Again, we always talk about
RJ Davis is back for his 20th year at North Carolina.
All right, Robbie, I have 20 names. I'm just going to rip through these,
Run through them.
So, Alex Caravan, back at UConn. Mark Sears, Bama. Caleb Love back at Zona. RJ Davis, UNC.
Yep.
You mentioned Kalkbrenner and Broome, both back.
Yep.
LJ Cryer, Houston. Hunter Dickinson, Kansas.
Yep.
Braden Smith, Purdue. Graham E.K. Gonzaga.
Hold on. You didn't say Flesher Lawyer with Braden Smith. You need to make
Braden Smith is back at Purdue.
Okay.
Braden Smith is back at Purdue. Graham E.K. Gonzaga. Wade Taylor IV. You mentioned him. Augustus. Do you want to say his last name is St. Mary's?
Is Marshallonis?
Marshallonis. Thank you. He's back.
Yeah, he's back at St. Mary's, yeah.
Zakai Ziegler back at Tennessee. Tarian Lipsey back at Iowa State. Cam Jones back at Marquette. Bryce Hopkins back at Providence. Ryan Nimhard's back. Emmanuel Sharp back at Houston. Tyrese Proctor back at Duke. McKinney Baka back at IU. Dwan Harris back at Kansas. Jawan Roberts, who I sneaky love at Houston.
Yeah.
Samson Johnson back at UConn, Grant Nelson back at Bama. So again, as much transfer turnover there is, there's still a good chunk of guys going back to their school.
Houston's a fascinating story because at no fault of their own, it feels like every time Houston gets that Sweet 16 game, something happens.
Right.
I don't know what it's been with them lately.
Last year's story was about Purdue, UConn, NC State in the tournament, right? I think Houston getting unlucky was just not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Like, just Jamal Shead getting hit in that Sweet 16 game just stunk.
I feel like they're on either end of the spectrum. They either just run teams off the court by 20 or 25, or they play 50 to 45 games where they have to grind it out because they're not shooting the ball well.
Right.
They're not in the middle. I guess that's not a bad place to be, but Iowa State's kind of in the same position. Like, Iowa State, I was not too impressed with them this year. And I remember at the start in February, I was like, oh, Iowa State, TJ Otzelberger, look, like, this team's amazing. And every time I started watching them after I said that, because I saw them on paper and kind of watched them and glanced them at some highlights, the more I watched, I was like, this is a top 10 team? Really?
Well, again, you mentioned kind of Houston middle. We talked about it last year in the pod. Their thing was they had like 7 guys averaging between like 8 and 12 points. They're so deep. They just, I mean, Lipsy is their best player. Like, they just don't really have like that, like,
Curtis Jones, Kashawn Gilbert, Mom Solovic. That's the question. I don't know.
Robbie's back on hating on the Big 12.
I don't like the Big 12.
Which, I mean, again, adding Arizona in there.
I put Baylor in my Final Four. Yeah, Arizona is, man.
Basketball-wise, anything else big? Because, like, Utah, they joined, but they're not really a big basketball school.
In terms of teams moving around, Texas, Oklahoma will be in the SEC.
I was talking this big. That should be another pod we could do this summer. Like, how
update people what team is going where?
Right, like SMU's in the ACC. Do you know California, Berkeley is in the ACC? Do you know that, people? Isn't that crazy?
What?
Yeah, Cal Berkeley's in the ACC this year. Them in Stanford.
Are you sure?
99% confident.
I thought Cal and like Oregon State were like. What's the other Pac-12? So it's Oregon State and Washington. That's who I'm getting confused. Yeah. Okay, so Oregon State and Washington State are independent.
They technically have like the Pac-12 name for like 3 years. So they have like a little. I don't know what the exact. They have a couple years to figure it out.
Why not just take them out and it's like, why don't we just move Bikini Bottom and move it somewhere else? Just take them out west and put them in with Oregon State and Washington State and make the Pac-12 again.
It's so easy. Get Gonzaga to join somehow, some way. Like you have single state, Boise State. They can all join. This is an easy fix.
I just created a new hashtag. Make the Pac-12 again. Trademark it. Where's my trademark team? Lawyers, get on it for me.
Crab, use your sales and get us a trademark. Which, not to get somber on the telecast, but you mentioned Pac-12. R.I.P. Bill Walton, man. Just want to throw that out there. One of the legends.
We lost 2 legends in the NBA, which I was going to save that for the end. Okay. I want to end that on that note because I want to finish it off. But anything else I'm missing? Way too early, top 25, teams to watch out for?
I forgot to do this. We should do like transfers. Like we talked about the winners earlier. I wonder who like the transfer portal losers
Maryland.
were. Maryland's a good one.
Maryland is...
Oklahoma State's a good one. They lost pretty much everyone.
Yeah, but they brought in a Purdue guy to be their new head coach, so I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, so losers again.
We made a Final Four this past year, right?
I mean, what's the thing?
I was there. Where was I? Where was I?
What does Scottie Pippen say? If you don't get... It don't mean a thing without the ring, Robbie. Okay? That's what I'm going with this year.
Scottie Pippen did not go to Purdue University, so he has no idea what he's talking about.
Saw him last week.
We will hang that dang... I remember you telling me that. We're going to hang a dang national runner-up banner at Mackey Arena, and you can suck it. I don't care.
That's our quote. We're going to hang a runner-up banner, and you can suck it.
Purdue mentality, baby. Anything else?
Nope.
There's one more thing I wanted to check.
Was another St. Peter's joke? Golke.
Are we done with Boo Booey? Is he done? Can he come back?
That's another.
Do we have anything? He can't return, right? Robbie, he's played 5 years.
I'm gonna do that one of the pauses here. I'm gonna get a list of guys for you and Dusty, and you tell me if they're back, if they're playing college basketball.
Please tell me Boo Booey's gone. It says he's staying in the draft, so I assume that means he's done.
It has to be. Has to be.
Please, for the love of God, Boo Booey, do not come back to college basketball.
That might be a good thing. Not even Boo Booey, like our game could be like, how are you still playing?
Why? R.J. Davis, how are you still there? And DJ Davis going from Butler to... Where's he going?
These J. Davises. John L. Davis, just moving around. Johnny Davis, shout, Wizards. I don't think he's doing well.
Where's DJ Davis going? Oh, crap. DJ Davis is maybe he is coming back to Butler.
I have no idea.
No, he's in the portal. He's going to Washington. So DJ Davis is going to Washington.
Wow, going out
That's
west.
an interesting one. I actually kind of Butler's got a decent team coming back next year. I liked what they did.
Didn't they there's a lot of turnover, right? Didn't they get almost
Yeah, they brought
new
almost
team?
yeah, kind of. It's kind of on both ends. So, all right. Anything else I'm missing?
No,
That's
sir.
it?
I think that's everything I wanted to say.
All right. Let's finish on a somber note. So you mentioned the passing of Bill Walton, but also yesterday. So we're doing this pod on Thursday. On Wednesday, the passing of the logo, the great, the legendary Jerry West. I wish I would have had a chance to interact and meet him, but from listening to him on the Dan Patrick Show, always hearing these interviews and stories from other people, just a tremendous and amazing person. And that also coincides with the passing of Bill Walton. Tremendous, amazing person. It almost doesn't feel real that, I mean, those are two guys that I never had a chance to physically watch in person or watch live, but going back and seeing their highlights and their amazing plays, Jerry West obviously coming from West Virginia, Bill Walton playing his college basketball at UCLA, had that 24 for 25 game in the national championship, which will probably be one of the greatest performances in college basketball history.
He was Jokic before Jokic, like the way he played.
Yes, if you go back and watch Bill Walton highlights, especially, I think we all, maybe it's just because you're a product of kind of the time of where you're coming up from. We all kind of associate Bill Walton with the Celtics, but if you go back and watch him at UCLA, and most especially, you go back and watch him when he played for the Portland Trail Blazers, he was incredible. Like he didn't have a jump shot, and he will be the first to tell you that. But Bill Walton was, again, you mentioned it, Jokic before Jokic. Like he was an amazing passer, and an amazing player.
I just want to say, think about how, Kurt Koivar went, Stars not winning titles. At the age of 24, he wins Finals MVP for the Portland Trail Blazers.
Crazy.
1978, he wins MVP. By the way, averaged 5 assists a game in his MVP season. So it's just an incredible basketball player. And I think...
And that was the day and age of the big man, too. Like, right. You needed the 6'10", 6'11" guy. There was stories about Bill Walton that he never wanted to be 7 foot tall, because he felt like that had some disadvantages, so we always said he was 6'11". That dude's 7'3".
Yeah.
Like Bill Walton is a legit 7'2", 7'3".
And just, again, the kind of story is a poor guy again. He wins MVP in 1978. The next 4 seasons, he plays a grand total of 14 games.
Yeah, he got crushed by injuries at the end of his career.
But what I just say about Jerry West and Bill Walton, it's kind of interesting to link together, because they showed you could have 2 great basketball lives in 2 completely different ways, right?
Completely different directions. And that's... Bill, I remember having this conversation with someone last year, and someone mentioned that, man, I can't stand Bill Walton calling college basketball games. How can you not? He had a passion and enthusiasm, true passion for college basketball that very few people ever really had, and that's what made him so unique and so much fun and so enjoyable to listen to.
And just genuine. I think that's all we ever want.
A genuine passion.
Yes.
And if you are anyone who watches or listens to anything college basketball, when you stayed up for Pac-12 After Dark in college basketball and you got to listen to Dave Pasch and Bill Walton, those were some great memories. They made those games watchable, not because of who was playing, but because they were just such a great duo, and Bill Walton just was so much fun and genuinely enjoyable to listen to.
And then Jerry West had the trifecta, great player, and again, got a lot of heartbreaks for him on the basketball court.
Oh my gosh, the only losing NBA Finals MVP in the history of the National Basketball Association.
I have it wrong. I think it's something 1-9 in NBA Finals, and not because he was a choke artist. He's known famously as a clutch player.
Yeah.
Just
his
never could
teams
get
for
done.
the Lakers just were not great. He was the best player on those teams. He didn't have a ton of help.
And then a good coach, but an even better executive. He helped build the Lakers.
He built Showtime for what it is.
Helped build the Warriors with Steph Curry.
That too.
The Clippers hired him after that. Granted, they didn't get to see hype, but just a great executive player and coach. And
his legendary move will forever be trading for Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Because the Charlotte Hornets had him in 13, and he traded to get Kobe Bryant to the Lakers. And his legacy is cemented on that alone. But more so, he was one of the probably one of the 10, 15 best players in NBA history, I think.
Yeah, I think he's got to be top
at least 15.
Yeah,
top 10. Maybe that's more of a topic of conversation, but. And Bill Walton has got to be in the top 20, top 25.
And that's just interesting about both guys. Some just tough luck with their playing careers. Yet had some great, and also too, just not really jokes per se. I think these comments people made, I like that. the Pac-12 ended and Bill Walton passed on. It's like he didn't want to see the Pac-12, no world without the Pac-12.
I didn't.
And Jerry West, he didn't want to see the Celtics win the title again, so he went out before him. So
that's immediately when Bill Walton passed away. My first thought was, he did not want to see a day where the Conference of Champions did not exist.
And you know what happened? That either a day or two before he passed on, Arizona won the Pac-12 tournament, the last official Pac-12 event.
Last one.
Yeah,
and
so
after that happened,
perfect. So
it's almost like, weirdly enough, going through Avengers Endgame and Tony and his wife saying, "It's okay, Tony. You can sleep now."
Spoilers.
Yeah. Well,
never saw the movie.
It's been 5 years, so I mean,
What's the-
get around to it.
I actually think it's 6 years, but
6 years? Okay,
I think so.
whatever. But anyway, that's my first thought was, go with Bill Walton. Bill, it's okay. You can sleep. You can sleep now.
and highly recommend the 30 for 30 for Bill Walton. It's either 3 or 4 parts. I
I
watched
have not had a chance to see it yet. But
watched about a year and a half ago. Phenomenal. Cannot recommend it enough.
pretty amazing people. So rest in peace to Jerry West and to Bill Walton, and we send our thoughts and prayers to everyone involved with all the organizations that they're connected with through ESPN, through those teams and their families and their friends. We know a lot of people. I know I listened to Dan Patrick yesterday, and he was having a really tough time getting through the news. He's a consummate professional. When he starts getting emotional and tearing up, you know it's a pretty significant story. So, again, thoughts and prayers to Jerry West and Bill Walton on their passings and to their friends and family. So that will do it for our first summer episode of the D1 and Done Pod. As we mentioned, coming up in about 2 weeks' time or so, we'll have our NBA draft preview pod. It's basically going to be a why is Zach Edey a top 5 pick pod? And if you can't deal with it, sorry.
And for people who don't know, we watch the draft almost every year together.
We do.
So we might talk about some of our favorite draft memories watching together. Or just draft memories in general.
We should do like a live stream of us watching the draft and getting our thoughts of it. Wouldn't that be cool?
Robbie has a great idea.
Okay.
We have to make sure it works out on Dusty's schedule.
I'll have to work on that. Any other big summer plans for you, by the way?
No, it feels good to be back, Robbie. We took a little hiatus. We had like race weekend between. We
Thank
watched.
goodness we got a lot of PTO. Man, I needed it.
The Pacers, we watched their fun.
Great.
So
Yep, NBA Finals coming up. Well, actually, no, the NBA Finals ended Game 4 in Indiana. My apologies. This is not... Whatever these games that the Mavericks and Celtics are playing are not actually the NBA Finals. My apologies.
the only team who could score on the Celtics consistently in the 4 rounds were the Indiana Pacers,
And they got swept.
And AR is not practicing right now, so...
Good thing I started sports card collecting and had Anthony Richardson as my big purchase, which, by the way, that's a whole nother issue. Like, I keep trying to find new things to do over the summer because I don't want to sit around and just do nothing. So I've started sports card collecting.
Have you tried heavily gambling? It's lots of fun.
I did, and then I won that $1,900 bet, which, by the way, have I mentioned that on this podcast?
No.
I don't think I have.
Between the summer layoff.
So... Back in, I think it was the end of December, I put in a 3-team futures bet for South Carolina to win the women's tournament, UConn to win the men's tournament, and Manchester City to win the Premier League. I put $25 on it, be like, this is cute, this is fun. It cashed for like $1,900.
He never cashed out.
I never cashed out. I wrote it out. I hung tough with Man City, and they did it for me. So I'm officially in the plus money category on FanDuel, which means I'm no longer putting any more money in my account. So I can say that I am on the plus side of things. I hope my wife doesn't listen to this.
I apologize again to everyone who followed my gambling advice last year.
I mean, I don't take responsibility for your transgressions and mistakes and slip-ups. That's on you.
Well, Robbie, you mentioned earlier, you have to fail as a young kid. I failed. I listened to
you did.
I failed.
You 100%
I wore
failed.
a damn turkey costume and sweating bullets everywhere on my body. So
That was a pretty sweaty costume there.
So sweaty.
Yeah. You still have it?
Oh, yeah, it's in my closet right now.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure we still have it for when Dusty does something dumb coming up. What?
He has to do his punishment for the...
Oh, for the tournament picks. Yeah. We got to workshop that as well. So we got a couple things we got to be in the works. So we got to think about our live stream for the NBA draft. We got to do our NBA draft pod, and I really want to do the 999 challenge. Have you heard of that? At a baseball game?
I think that was our first suggestion.
Okay, that's what it should be. Now, Dusty in his F45 greatness probably won't do it, but he should be required to.
But there should be activities we can get him to do. Like, okay, if you do this, you get a hot dog off. Like,
if you stand up and yell something inappropriate, maybe you get an inning off or something like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. We can workshop this.
Okay, we'll make it happen. We'll make it work. All right. that's going to put a bow on this first episode of the D1 and Done Summer Pod. We're going to get back to vacationing and grabbing a drink and enjoying ourselves by the pool.
And I guess one last note. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, including those of you who don't have kids but have dogs. You are also dog dads. Happy Father's Day to me. And happy Father's Day to all of those Tennessee fans that continue to listen to the pod. I am, and Purdue is, your daddy from here on out. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is.